Hi, my name is Fred Mastropasqua. I'm a Scrum Alliance certified Scrum trainer with Clearly Agile, and today I'm going to talk to you about potentially shippable product increment, PSPI. What does that mean? How do we have production-ready product at the end of a single sprint? So two examples. I'm going to give you a software example and a non-software example. Software example, let's say that we had an existing, some type of customer relationship management system, some type of CRM system, and in this existing system, we had a list of customers, right? This is the existing product. Maybe it's an early release, maybe it's currently what we have today. And the backlog item I want to create that's written in the format of a user story might be something like, as a sales manager, I want to add new customers to the system so that I can charge them for subscriptions and recognize them when they come into the store. And on the back of that card, we might have some acceptance criteria such as first name and last name are required, mailing address optional, phone number, email optional. I want to be able to add a photo of them and their credit card information on this form, right? And so we have this today. That's our existing product. Let me give you the non-software example that we're going to use. Non-software example, let's say that we had a company and we need to create an employer-employee agreement, right? Some type of employee agreement that the employee is going to sign when they come work for an employer, right? Legal document, legal contract. I start out, I have nothing, right? Word document, and I want to cover things like intellectual property rights, maybe any disputes, who to discuss, maybe compensation or things like that, or HR information I'm going to have in this document here. And so we start, all right, let's say the team starts in the first sprint, and in the very first sprint, right, the team creates in this original screen for the software example, they add a plus button here. All right, they add a button here that's a plus, and then when you click on this button, it opens up some type of modal window, a pop-up window. All right, and in this pop-up window, we have some information that we can fill out. All right, we have a first name box and a last name box. And we add a little X button here to cancel. We add a save button here at the bottom. And that's as far as we can get. It's as far as we can get at the end of the first sprint, right? Those two fields. And think of all the other things that was being asked for, all the other requirements that were asked for. Is this ready for production? All right, depending on what you're thinking, you might say no, because you're missing all these other things that the customer's expecting. So I could agree with that in the sense of, is it ready for your customers to use? Maybe, maybe not, probably not. It's not fully, it doesn't have everything they're asking for. Is it ready for production at the technical level? Is it technically ready for production? The answer should be yes, right? It is ready for production. It could go to production, right? That means it's completely functional, right? It's a vertical slice of the product, meaning if I put some data in here, first name and last name, and I hit save, it saves it to the system, and maybe it even shows up here in the list, right? It's fully functional. If I put some data in here and I cancel it, maybe I get a warning that says, you're about to lose your data. Are you sure? If I cancel the window and open it back up, it's ready to start with fresh again, right? It doesn't have my old information there. If these two fields are required, and I try to save it with missing data, I get a validation message. Please, these fields are required. It is 100% ready for production at the technical level. Who decides if something should go to production? The product owner role. So the development team needs to work in a way of mentally understanding at the end of the sprint, the product owner may want to ship this to production. So how do we build this in a way that's working product at the end of every single sprint? You're right, this is missing data here, but maybe as a product owner, I want to get some feedback on this functionality, on this limited functionality. So I might release this to a beta group, a UAT group, a diehard fan of users, somebody to try this out and tell me what you think, right? But it has to be, it's technically ready for production. It could go to production. This is what we call a vertical slice. Right? We talked about that in other videos, is that we're not just going to do the whole UI, make it look pretty, and it's not functional. You've delivered zero business value. Deliver working product, right? Working product. So that means you're going to work on just what's needed. Other example, non-software example, legal document. All right, first sprint. We, the company, shall be referred to as company throughout this document. You underscore shall be referred to as employee on this underscore date of underscore year. All right, so we're identifying the parties. At the bottom, we add some signature lines. Name, title, date, name, title, date. And that's as far as we get at the end of the first sprint. Is this ready for employees to sign? No, right? It's only got identifying information. It's missing all the other stuff like intellectual property rights. Is it potentially shippable product increment? The answer is yes, right? This is a legally binding document. If I was to print this out and hand it to you and we sign it and fill it out, we're simply agreeing that I'm going to be called the employer company and you're going to be referred to as an employee. And we're both sign it. And that's it. It's a silly document to sign, but it is done. It is potentially shippable product increment, right? Second sprint. Let's say second sprint. The team on the software example adds the, let's say, phone number, email address, mailing address, address 1, address 2, city, state, maybe as a drop down, zip code, and they add the box here to upload your photo, right? And they have a little upload button here, right? Now, every single sprint, and that's as far as you get to the end of the sprint, every single sprint you should be doing two things: iterating and incrementing your product, right? Iterating and incrementing your product. Incrementing your product is adding new functionality. That's the orange, right? That's the second sprint. We added a complete new functionality. That's the incremental piece, right? On our non-software example, we're going to increment by adding new information, new features or new functionality. So now I'm going to add the intellectual property one. Anything you ever say and do will be owned by us for the rest of your life, and you're selling your soul to the company, right? I've incrementally added new items. You should also be iterating, which means improving what was there before, but it's not improving in that sense that you're making it production ready. You're improving it based on feedback. You're improving it, making it better. It was still ready for production. So for example, first name and last name was already ready for production. It could have gone to production. But we got feedback. The feedback was, we're not sure which field is what, so we're going to iterate it over it, making it better by adding some labels, first name and last name labels, based on the feedback we received. Right? We're going to iterate over the legal document here by tweaking some functionality. Instead of the word company, we're going to refer to the company as the employer. We might tweak some other things, and we're iterating over what was there before. Right? Third sprint comes along. We're going to increment and iterate. So we're incrementing here in the software example, right? Incrementing is adding new functionality. So we're adding the credit card field, maybe your expiration date, CCV code, maybe a zip code field, and that's the incremental piece. We've incremented. Iterating over this piece, we got feedback from our user experience person. They don't like this button that they have to click to upload, and so we got rid of the button, and now you can drag and drop. We got feedback that the phone number field, we feel like people are not putting the area code in the right spot and stuff. So we're going to iterate over that by splitting this field into 3 fields for area code, and then the other breakdown of the number versus one just big field. All right. We also got feedback that this button was a little people didn't know what it was for, based on some feedback, and so we made the button bigger. And we added some words here to say add new customer, right? And we got rid of the plus button, right? So we've iterated and incremented that product. And now after 3 sprints, now it's ready for customers to start using. Legal document, we added something else. Any issues, contact our legal team at this address. And here's the contact for HR, whatever that is, whatever the next legal piece of information we want to show. So we're incrementally added that, and then we tweaked some things that were there before. We iterated over some things that were there before, and maybe even some of the original stuff we made some tweaks. We realized that the employee doesn't need to have a title, right? Name, title, date, and so we get rid of the title field, right? And so after 3 sprints, this document is ready. This is what we mean by product increment, right? By potentially shippable product increment. it could go to production at the end of every single sprint, right? That means you have to build it in a way that's a small slice of the work, right? It's a small slice of the work. Couple of questions. What if you don't finish, right? What if you don't finish? So let's say that you tried to do all of this in a single sprint, right? This whole software example in a single sprint. Or you tried to add all these things and get it all working, and you hit the end of the sprint and you failed, right? None of this stuff works. You still have this original screen, right? What do you have to do to this original screen to make it potentially shippable product increment, right? None of this stuff works, right? And you still have to have a potentially shippable product increment, right? What would you need to do? So if you guess correctly, you would need to hide this button here, right? You'd have to hide this and remove it, because if the product owner wants to push to production, they should be able to. So we hide this button, we push to production, and no one can access this broken part of the application, right? It's potentially shippable again. Let's say that some of this stuff works, right? Let's say that some of this stuff works. And let's talk about the backlog item. Let's say it's written in the format of user story. So we have the backlog item. As a sales manager, I want new customers to the system so I can charge subscriptions and recognize them when they come into the store. And we have some acceptance criteria. Let's say it's a team size at relative size as a 13-point backlog item. And if you don't understand relative sizing, we have a video for that on the relative sizing. And let's say they worked on this piece and they got some of it working, right? But not all of it. Let's say that the stuff above, outside this blue, the stuff in the purple and orange, let's say that works 100%, but this credit card stuff does not, right? So if this stuff works and is ready for production, and this is not, right, we could, up to the product owner, we could split this story, right? And that's a negotiation with the team, the development team, and the product owner. So we can say, hey, product owner, you know what, all this stuff works, but this blue stuff does not. So maybe as a product owner, then I'll give you credit and we'll split this into 2 stories instead of the original. We'll have the 8-point, and then maybe we make the other one a 5-point story. I'll give you credit for the 8-point story, right? But you're not going to get credit for the 5-point story yet. And to make this potentially shippable, you need to hide this stuff because it's not ready to be used. It doesn't work yet, right? So this stuff we could release, this part we can't. It still has to be potentially shippable, right? It could go to production if the product owner wanted, so we would need to hide this piece here. Right? We could hide the button and pause this and come back to it later, right? And we could decide that the whole thing's not worth it, just delete the whole functionality as well. So if you don't finish, it's or you can continue to the next sprint, but that should not be the norm. The norm should be working product at the end of every single sprint. If you let your team carry things over from sprint to sprint to sprint, you're going to accrue a bunch of technical debt, and then that becomes their norm, right? You don't want that as their norm. Hold them accountable. Do you have work on success is based on, do you have working product at the end of every single sprint? One thing I want to add as well is, what if you split, or what if you don't finish? What happens to the original points, original estimates, right? The points don't get counted until you get the value of the whole story. So let's say you're in sprint 6, and then you have sprint 7 and sprint 8. And let's say you pulled in this 13-point story, and you also pulled in an 8-point story, right? You pulled in the 13 and an 8-point story. This is a total velocity of 21 points, right? 21 points. And let's say at the end of the sprint, you don't complete this item, this original backlog item, this written in the format of user story, right? And none of it works. That means you get no credit for the 13, no credit at all. And your sprint ends up being 8, right? That becomes your real velocity for that sprint. Now, let's say that your velocity is around 20, 21, and the team says, but this 13-point story is 95% complete. It's almost done, right? Well, all 13 points gets moved over to the next sprint, right? All 13 points gets moved over if we continued it to the next sprint. Now, if this 13-point story is already 95% complete, that means this is almost a free story, right? You only have like 5% left work, and you're getting 95% of this 13 for free. So what that means is I might be able to pull in an 8. I might be able to pull in another 5, right? And maybe I can pull in another 5. Maybe I can pull in close to my what I originally was planning. So this just ends up being 31 points. And let's say we did get all this done, right? Because this 8 and 5 and 5, right? That's close to what I think our velocity is. This 13 point is kind of free, right? and we end up delivering it in this next sprint, right? That's 31 points. If the previous sprint before we had say 20 points, and we average out the last 3 sprints, you're going to come back to your velocity of around 19, 20, 20 points, whatever that is. So that is what we mean by potentially shippable product increment, right? Is working product at the end of every single sprint, right? Vertical slices of work, small vertical slices of work. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, make some comments, let me know. Again, my name is Fred Mastropasqua with Clearly Agile. Thank you very much.